Hello traders, Gary Wagner here just before 11 o'clock in Honolulu, 5 o'clock in New York. It is Friday. Happy Aloha Friday, as we say on the islands. Last day of the month, March 31st, last day of the quarter, and this is the Daily Report for Gold and Silver, our weekend review. And what a week we've seen, what a quarter we've seen. I'm sorry that I'm coming to you a little bit late, but we were compiling closing data to look at first quarter performance to see how the performance of gold and silver, the precious metals complex, compared to equities, compared to overall investments as a whole. And what I can say is that first quarter performance was stellar. You know, when we look at these markets a day in and day out and we look at it through that microscope, it is sometimes really nice to kind of stand back and get a big picture. And that's going to be the underlying framework of today's video report. First, to gold. After selling off fairly strongly yesterday, and we have seen dollar strength really eroding gold and silver pricing, we have seen a pretty nice recovery when we look at the futures market, 1251.40. Of course, that puts it up roughly $3.40. When we compare that, of course, to the cash market in gold, net change is going to be about the same, but that's trading at about $12.49, up about $6. And of course, we have an active trade in the June contract, which is trading at $1251.40. The low on the day is 41, and the high on the day has been $1252.80. We are, in fact, closing very, very near the highs. Silver traders did close higher, up about 7 cents, but as you can see from our opening letter, in terms of the precious metals complex, silver was stellar. It performed gaining about 12% in the first quarter, outperforming all of the major indexes in U.S. equities, which I found surprising seeing what they have done in recent history. We've got silver at $18.28, up about $7. The low on the day is $18.06, and the high today is $18.28. So traders, an interesting conclusion to the week. We're looking at a weekly chart in gold. Absolutely no doubt about it. We did close higher on the week, but nominally higher, as you can see by this small green candle. But we still now have 3 consecutive weeks that have closed higher when we compare it to the open first. Secondly, when we look at this weekly chart, we have a series of higher lows consecutive weeks for the last 3 consecutive weeks, as well as 3 consecutive weeks of higher highs. That certainly bodes well for gold bulls. Let's take a look at our daily chart. And when we do that, it's quite apparent that where we gave back any kind of equity that was gained during the week, meaning this is Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday. Of course, we had a tremendous surge on Monday, a very, very minor move to higher ground on Tuesday. Wednesday, although the candlestick is higher, it did contain a lower high and a lower low. And then yesterday, of course, we had that dramatic sell-off. Now, let's get to our current trade. We went long, of course, at 1237. This is basis June's contract, and that is the contract that we have up. That's the symbol for it, GCM7. Midweek, I sent out a special trade alert, and I recommended that we trail our stops up. The conservative stop move took it to about 1239, meaning we're protecting all of the equity, but not much of the profit. The more aggressive stop that I put in was at 47. Traders that took the more aggressive stop at 47 got knocked out, making $1,000 per contract profit on the trade, or well over a 10% gain, about a 14% gain on that trade. For traders that came in with the more conservative stop, we are still sitting long this market. Market is trading at 1251. We got in at 37. Our stops are just below 39. Obviously, my recommendation is to maintain our current long position for those still in the market. For those out, you pulled profits, I will send out a special trade alert letting you know when to reinitiate another position or another trade. So traders, as I said in my opening statement of today's show, we came in a little late because I needed all the markets to close so I could do first quarter comparisons in terms of performance. Of the precious metals complex, which of course is palladium, platinum, gold, and silver, palladium was by far the most stellar of the performers, actually outperforming silver, but just by a little bit. Both silver and gold came in with very, very respectable gains. I wanted you to take a look at this palladium chart because if we look at where prices were, and the way that I do it is simply to fix the lowest low in any commodity or index I'm looking at for the first trading day. So you can see this is at 1/3, January 3rd, and the market was trading at that point at 677. It's now at 798, and that's how we're getting the performance that we're looking at in terms of palladium. And palladium is certainly outshining all of the precious metals. And in terms of the commodity complex, there were only two commodities that did better in terms of percentage gains, and that was lumber and lead, and we don't trade either of them. But palladium was certainly something that was noteworthy and something we're going to want to look at in terms of our portfolio, next quarter. And traders, silver shined ever so brightly this quarter, gaining almost 13%. When we consider the fact that we'll go back to the beginning of this trading year, that silver was trading just below $16, and now it's trading over $18. You can see where this stellar performance is coming from. Silver has moved quite eloquently through the entire quarter. In other markets that we look at, we did have a little bit of softness in the equities markets, although for the first quarter, all of them finishing in respectable positive territory. It was the NASDAQ, of course, that outperformed all of the other indexes. Dow Jones Industrial Average, 20,663 with a net loss today of about 65 points. S&P 500 giving up about 0.2% to close at 2362. And the star of the U.S. equities markets this quarter has been the NASDAQ, closing fractionally unchanged, fractionally lower. It is red, but it's very, very nominal. 59.12, closing near the all-time record high. Lastly, I do want to take a look at the dollar index that continues to ramp up and gain value. However, when we look at the dollar index and compare today's move to the relative moves we've seen this week, this upside move is meek, to say the least. So in terms of first quarter performance in the equities markets, the most stellar of the indexes was the tech-heavy NASDAQ index. Even though it closed nominally unchanged today, it did have a strong week. We are looking at our weekly chart. Let me go ahead and blow that up. We've got S&Ps on the bottom, NASDAQ on the top. And you can see that we closed really near, almost at the all-time record weekly high, not at the daily high, but at the weekly high on the NASDAQ. S&Ps right around there, but still a pretty stellar performance considering that the NASDAQ gained about 8.8% and the Standard & Poor's index gained a little bit over 5%. And really the other really noteworthy aspect of trading this week in U.S. equities is taking a look at the daily NASDAQ chart. And on this daily chart, we have our shorter term 50-day moving average and our longer term 200-day moving average. It's obvious we have been far above the 200-day moving average, but this most recent corrective action that took place about a week ago, it managed to always trade above the 50-day moving average and now has gained some ground. And I think that the NASDAQ will continue to perform in such a manner. The NASDAQ should outperform the S&P and the Russell. And traders, lastly, I do want to look at the dollar index. Dollar was stronger today, up about 0.15%, so less than 2% of a gain. But what is striking to me when I look at this chart is the fact that we have really seen the range come down substantially. When we take a look at first quarter performance of the precious metals complex, they performed in a stellar manner. They offered us opportunities throughout this entire first part of 2017 in which as traders we could profit from the upside moves we have seen. Silver, incredible when we consider that it gained 12%, almost twice the percentage gain that we saw in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We can see that silver has been shining extremely bright, as well as palladium, which came in just above silver. So in closing, I look forward to this next quarter and what opportunities it might bring. Traders, maintain your current long positions and maintain your current stop. For those that took the higher stop and pulled a profit earlier this week. We will send a special trade alert when we think that you should enter the market. And we might get a scenario where traders that are still long in this market will add to their position, while traders who pulled profits midweek this week will initiate a new position. This has been Gary Wagner wishing you, as always, good trading. We'll talk to you on Monday for another daily update and review. Bye-bye.